All right. Good morning, everybody. So the little bump we got the other day kind of faded off. We went absolutely sideways. Last night, I came in looking for a little opportunity, thinking since yesterday was so sideways, maybe there would be something last night. There was nothing. Everything is on weight. Kind of lost that warm, fuzzy feeling in the market. And we're looking at some economic data coming in today through the day, too. I mean, it's going to be all day long because we've got the minutes in the afternoon. We've got a lot of data on sales. These datas this morning coming in, they're going to be really impactful. Uh, we still don't know what happened at that closed door meeting the other day, and kind of got this sneaky suspicion that they want to see these numbers, and that they may be expecting to come out with a statement after these numbers today. So just be really careful. Watch the clock. Keep your eye out on the economic events.
As a woman of color, I knew early on I would need
Wow,
extra
that's
support
loud.
to overcome.
What the heck? Bloomberg. All right, so everybody's still looking at Ukraine. Um, they had started a pullback, but then the president came out and said, yeah, they're pulling back a little bit, but they could still attack. So that kind of burned the fizzle on that. Again, they're going to hit the economy this morning with these numbers. These are going to be really, really important numbers. So everybody's in this wait and see mode. Other than that, there's really not too much on the 5 things you need to know list. Go to Market Watch. 8:30, 9:15, 10 o'clock, and 2 o'clock. The FOMC minutes, this is where they kept track of everything that was talked about. They record who voted on what, how close a vote was, um, anything that they discussed that was not brought up in the meeting afterwards is really going to be parsed through today. They look at the language that was used in these minutes, right? Because they're looking for any kind of guidance. So these minutes are scrutinized word for word. They count how many times a particular word was used, how it was, what the inflection was when it was used. I mean, it's almost crazy how they go in and analyze these FOMC minutes. So even though it's nothing more than what Powell had already come out and talked about, he doesn't cover everything that they talked about when he comes out at that does that presser. So it's not necessarily different data. It's just a more in-depth view of the meeting that we just had, right? And not that closed door meeting either. So we've got 2 really impactful events on the day. Early this morning and then later this afternoon. So be very careful through the day. Look for complete change in market sentiment. We've still got an ADR in the ES of over 2%, and we're just slightly off this morning. So plenty of room to make a move, right? Even though we have a 2% ADR, more than 12 hours of the day is already done, right? So it would be pretty significant to see a 2% move at this point. We've been holding in this range through the last 24 hours. And you can see when I zoom back out that scale, this is momentum. We kind of peaked and it's just been on the decline. Got a whole lot of nothing, right? Just this huge pause with the market holding its breath. So we're going to be looking to come back down inside of this box or break through that voodoo line and come up towards the weekly expected move. So just like I was talking about, look at the compression here. So this thing's just winding up more and more and more and more energy. Energy is not really a word we use a lot in the marketplace, but if you bring up fractal energy, something like the Laguerre, you'll see how this thing's just winding up more and more and more and more, right? And it's not making a promise about which direction it's going to break, but it is telling you that this thing is getting ready to make one hell of a move, right? So we haven't shifted our point of control yet. When we look at how much time we've spent in one spot, this blue volume profile, it's a TPO profile, right? TPO, time price opportunity. This is volume by time. How much volume was done at a particular level based on how much time we spent there. So our point of control hasn't shifted yet, but it's pretty close. We've got a lot of resistance overhead. We're basically sitting on or resting at some volume support when we look at a regular volume profile back here. But notice if we break the downside, we've got a nice shallow area. We'll be able to move through that shallow area really fast. And there's not really much to catch us until we get back down inside that box. So it's going to be pretty significant if we break through yesterday's intraday low. It's a very clean pivot that you're able to mark out, to keep track of. Yesterday's lowest point is also where another one of those voodoo lines are at. But we break through yesterday's low, and we're very likely going to see inside of 4,400. And then to the upside, we got a cog line getting us above 4,500 with the weekly expected move at 4,511. All right, the Nasdaq's resting on that 50 on the 15. We break that, and it's liable to get a little bit nasty. So same thing here. We don't want to break to the downside below the low of this Globex value, or we're going to move back down through the range relatively quick. We're still holding underneath that 200. It's a significant level of resistance. It's going to take a serious push in the market to get above that level. Very likely going to be an econ run. So as you can see, retail sales, industrial production, and Atlanta Fed meetings, just back-to-back numbers. So we come in and look at the volume profile. We have shifted the point of control on the TPO to our current location. We've spent enough time there winding up more and more of this energy. This thing is ready to go. An upside break, we would aim for the point of control. on the volume profile, something around 14,700. If we can get through that level of resistance towards the later part of the week, we'd be looking at 14.8 to 14.9. We'd move through that area really easy if we can get above 14.8. That'd be towards the later part of the week. If we break yesterday's low, we've got a very shallow area. We're very likely to move through it fast, right? So it's the same situation as the ES. The only difference is we're much higher up off of this low than the ES is. We still got an average daily range of 3.25. So, even though more than 12 hours of the day is already done, there's still enough time left to make a significant move on the day. So just kind of a little bit of a heads up. Metals and mining yesterday had a significant rally. And looking back now, I got busy and wasn't able to keep track of it through the day. But looking back at the move from yesterday, that was absolutely phenomenal. With everything else that just wasn't doing anything yesterday, that's where the play was at, right? And it's been a part of the capital rotation lately. Energy, metals, mining, finance. It's kind of really been the main focus, right? So a little bit of bid up on the marijuana. Energy made a reasonably decent recovery yesterday. Still bid up this morning. We're up more than 1.25%. Energy as well, up at least to 1%. And then the rest of them are flat until we start to get into the negative numbers. Right? Look how wound up this thing is energy wise, just sitting there winding up more and more and more energy. All right, so a little bit of bid in the VIX. We're getting a little bit of reaction here in the market now. It was just waiting for me to start talking, and then it started moving. So we're getting that failed flag in the dollar. We want to keep our eye on this, see if it's going to make it through the top of this range or retest back down to the lows. We've been seeing some really significant moves in the bonds. I was over on Tastyworks this morning looking at the 2, 10, and 30 that they have in that new smalls exchange. And while we don't see the same activity in these more legacy bond products on Tastyworks, it really stood out. I mean, if you've got Tastyworks and you can see the smalls exchange, go take a look at what the bond products are doing over there. So the Russell and the Dow flirting with the bottom side of that Globex range. We've broke trend line in the Nasdaq and the S&P. S&P is getting ready to do it. Look for correlation in the market today as we're running through here. We want to see if that dollar starts to respond very closely like the VIX, right? We want to see if we're turning the dollar back into a global risk asset or not. Right now they're decoupled, everything is fine, but we don't want to see them start to sync up. Things were starting to turn around and look kind of interesting if you were keeping your eye on the on more than one expiration within the futures, right? So we come in and look at this is the ES futures, and you can see how the forward projections of where we're going to be later in the year. We're almost done with the March series, then we'll be into the Junes, right? But it's a really flat curve looking out towards September, and then a little bit of bump for December. But look, when we start getting out to June of next year, they're projecting us up to 4,800. That may seem like a lot, but that's nothing compared to what it has been, right? So the market exuberance is really pulled back at the moment. Maybe, maybe on a day-to-day basis, this may not be too significant, but it's worth keeping an eye on a week-to-week basis. Where's the curve? And is it steepening or not? We were actually inverted last Wednesday. We had backwardation in the ES futures. Looking at the VIX, you can see that we're still kind of disparate, right? We're trying to bring that back end down. And generally, when we're looking at the futures, we're not going to look at all eight, right? Normally, we would bump it down a little bit. Well, when we bump it down a little bit, you can see that we're back into contango, right? So, the world is right again. We got a red to green on a couple of those energy names. Sitting here, I was looking at Chevron a little bit ago. Nice recovery off that 20 yesterday. The 10 still overhead. And for the red green setup, we're opening very close to where we opened yesterday. That's one of the criteria that I like to find, right? Nice recovery off the lows, close with a red day. We go to open the next day and we rally up near the open, or even better, get above that open, right? What we're looking for is to break through yesterday's high and have an inside day breakout. I'm looking at Chevron, but quite a number of financials and energy names have this setup today. So we got a lot of red to greens to focus on. Look at the sectors this morning: natural gas, energy, USO. Then it starts to get flat, and then we start getting to the other end. Jets are down quite a bit after that move yesterday. Hard rejection, right? Big, massive move yesterday and just couldn't make it through the top of the range. Now we're getting that pullback again. Now, as you can see, though, there's a lot of names right now that are up this morning in the pre-market. So there's plenty of things to trade. Just get away from the indexes and you're fine, right? And this is where I keep talking about on days like this, when we can't lean into the sectors, we're not going to be running any kind of alpha protocol on a day like this. You have to go in and really kind of build your own lists and really be a stock picker today. Run your scanners, maybe something like the high-low graph. Uh, Follow the names down the rabbit hole that are up this morning. See if their peer group is moving with them or if they're moving individually on their own. We've been running the weekly option lists, but we narrowed that down to the CBOE list, right? So that instead of looking at 600 names, we're looking at 47 names. So again, guys, just be very careful, right? We got a lot of econ on deck today, and we are wound up with just a tremendous amount of energy.